One. Gee, I hope we have the rights to or the licenses to these games we're going to talk about.
When do we ever have the rights to anything?
Damn, you're
This is
right.
Gaming Stooges.
Welcome to the newest Gaming Stooges podcast, where we're going to talk about licensed games, which has quite a connotation. Uh,
Yup.
let's first start by defining what a licensed game is, because there's a couple different directions we can actually go in this. A licensed game is a game that is based on an existing property that is not a game, usually a book or movie or an anime, manga, what have you. Could even be like a board game, like a Monopoly, Uno, that then they do like a video game based on that. It just can't be a video game and then it's made into a video game after. But there's also, you could also make the argument that a game is a licensed game if it is a game filled with licensed content, even if like the actual game itself, like the concept is not licensed. Like a lot of rhythm games fall under this, where like they used a ton of licensed music because that is the core of the game. But like the concept of Elite Beat Agents or Guitar Hero or Rock Band are not technically licensed themselves, but they're still licensed games because they're filled with licensed music.
I would say more that they're like games that just happen to have licensed products.
Exactly. So I think we can talk about both today on the podcast. I don't think we need to like exclude either or. Like we can talk about all this stuff in general. But there's been one series that I don't know. What do you guys remember what the first exposure to like any licensed game has been for you?
That's a good question.
Because I'm trying to think. Like I know it has to be like a Super Nintendo or Genesis game, because I did not play any NES games that were like licensed games. That's all much I remember.
Do professional sports leagues count as licensing in video games?
Did they actually pay for the licensings of the players?
Yeah, because it's like, because I mean, they used to do it where like they made like characters with their likeness, and they just used the property of like the sports like league. But that I wouldn't call that licensed game, like games using a license. But I guess that's kind of similar. Like stuff like Madden, I would probably say Madden is a licensed game because you have to license all of the players. So
what about backyard baseball is what I'm asking. Because there are actual, technically not like the real life versions of these players, but like kid versions of these real life players.
I would say
real teams.
The games where they use like actual like caricatures of actual players, you could argue that's kind of not. I wouldn't say it's a licensed game, but it's a game with licensed stuff in it because you're using the name of the player. So like they kind of had to get like the permission to do that. That's a pretty good question. I think my first game, so I'm pretty sure it was the Lion King game for me. Maybe it was Goof Troop, but I'm pretty sure it was the Lion King game. And I played both the Genesis and the Super Nintendo versions. The game's hard.
I think outside of the backyard baseball example, once again, I don't remember what the actual title of the game is, but one of the first 3 GBA games I ever owned was like a Lego kart racer.
Okay, yeah, I mean, yeah.
I don't...
If it's like based on like I mean, it's already based on Lego. That's,
Yeah, that's licensing in of itself, so...
I was going to say... probably there was like a pack of Lego PC games I got as a kid. It had Lego Racer, Lego Chess, Lego Creator. There's 2 others. They didn't matter.
I mean, that definitely counts. It's interesting that 2 of the 3 of us mentioned
Lego Island.
Never played a Lego game before, I don't think.
You haven't?
No. Like I know I know there's a ton of Lego games out there. I've never touched any.
Damn, they're really fun actually. Like they're like kids games, so they're really easy, but like they're fun like adventure games. Especially when they're like just kind of humorous retellings of like films.
Yeah.
Well, the Lego games I'm talking about were like the late 90s. Yeah,
I know
yeah.
what you're
Yeah.
talking about. I'm just telling Cloud.
A lot of the newer stuff is just like
It's like a double whammy. It's like it's Lego, which is already licensing something else on top of that, and then that's turned into a video game. So you got the double license.
Exactly.
That's a super that's not even a licensed game. That's a super licensed game at that point.
And I would definitely say the one that stuck with me the most is Lego Racer. Probably because that was, I mean, Lego Chess was fine, but it was chess. And then Lego Creator was fine, but it was like a bad Minecraft.
True. One franchise that is like full of licensed games that I'm gonna try to avoid talking about on this podcast. I don't know about Landon. We've already talked about Dragon Ball games for 3.5 hours in a separate episode.
Let's talk about them for 3.5
No, please God, no.
So, Dragon Ball Z Attack of the Saiyans for the Nintendo DS.
And that is a really good game. I'll give you that. But no, there is a franchise though that I haven't really been able to talk about a decent amount on a podcast before that has seen a lot of games. And I've played quite a lot of them.
Star Wars.
I'll tell you one thing. It's y'all move, y'all move, y'all move.
I honestly thought you were talking about Kingdom Hearts for a second.
No, so here's the thing. It is not a licensed game. It is a game with a lot of licensed content, but I am not going to talk about it on tonight's podcast. I wanted to talk about Yu-Gi-Oh! So Kingdom Hearts can get the fuck out of my house because I'm talking about Yu-Gi-Oh! So
Okay.
Yu-Gi-Oh! Is very interesting. So like Yu-Gi-Oh! As a manga didn't even have the card game originally. And like it just kind of like was a one-off and then it turned it into a card game. And while by the time we actually got the card game, the rules had finally been like padded out because it took them 3 years to bring this over. But the video games we got were the games that didn't have all of these rules ready. So like we had all these weird early like rules, but I mean it's still all based off this thing. I mean you had Forbidden Memories is a game that we let's played before. I like that game to this day.
I don't remember it.
You do. You
Lennon,
don't want to admit it.
You remember Seto Kaiba.
You remember Seto
Kaiba?
Yes. Exactly. There you go.
That's all I remember.
I used to play the World Championship games on the DS. There was a couple. There was actually like a few, but I only played like 2 of them. And I like the 2008 one cuz like so you could make a character. There was like a campaign mode where you got to like duel these like dual spirits that like had like a deck themed after like whatever like group of cards they were from. So like if you dueled like against, I don't know, elemental hero Atlantis or whatever, he would be like either he could have like a water deck or he'd have like an elemental hero themed deck. Or you could duel like Guardian Sphinx, and he had a bunch of those rock type monsters that flip themselves face down and then like they flip up and do some stupid bullshit effects or whatever. There was also Duels of the Roses.
I did want to say, unrelated to the Yu-Gi-Oh topic, but just as a side note, I googled licensed games, and 2 of the first results were Dragon Ball FighterZ and Kingdom Hearts.
There you go. But yeah, Yu-Gi-Oh had Duels of the Roses. There was they had like a kart racer style game, like a racing game on the Wii. It was it was Yu-Gi-Oh 5D's Wheelie Breakers, and you use the cards as like basically like your like power-ups and items or whatever that like messed with like the race.
And everything was a kart racer on the Wii.
Exactly. And apparently they even did a Yu-Gi-Oh one. Like
honestly,
Yu-Gi-Oh has like so many different genres going on. And the fun thing is that even the video game series did not start as a card game series. The first Yu-Gi-Oh game was based on the Capsule Monsters. one. So like, because they had the capsule monster thing in the manga as well at the time, so they were like, yeah, just make a capsule monster game. And I mean, to be fair, at that time, like capsule, like gotcha pawn things were like that stuff was like all over Japan. Like Digimon had like Tamagotchi style stuff. You could also do like a gotcha thing as well. So Yu-Gi-Oh was in on that. Like a bunch of properties were in on that sort of thing. Some of stuff stemmed from that sort of thing. So like, but yeah, no, Yu-Gi-Oh's like all over the place, and I've had quite a lot of experiences with the franchise. I've played at least a half dozen plus, almost a dozen games. The newest, I've even played the newest one, Master Duel, which is, I mean, that's just a simulator at that point, though.
Which one's your least favorite?
That's a good question. I mean, none of them are great, but like some of them I do have fond memories with. I'd probably say my least favorite is World Championship 2007, because like it's like everything it does, World Championship 2008 just does better. There's more cards. You have a campaign mode, which doesn't even exist in 2007. So yeah, like...
Is Buster Blade in 2007?
Buster Blader's in 2007, but he's also in 2008.
Is One-Eyed Shield Dragon in 2007?
I think so. They have like 5,000 or so cards in the World Championship games at the time.
If One-Eyed Shield Dragon's not in it, I'll agree with you.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I mean, I doubt either of you have played any Yu-Gi-Oh games before.
I think I had a very, very brief experience with one of the... I do not remember which one it is, so don't ask me. But one of my friends had at least one Yu-Gi-Oh game on the GBA when I was a kid, and I played a little bit of that, like one time.
Oh,
I don't remember which one it was, though.
I will say, to answer Al in the chat, I did like GX Duel Academy. I haven't played in like 20 years, so I don't remember it all that well. I did like it though, because you got to go through like the actual dorms. And I'm guessing, Landon, you really haven't like played any of the actual video games. Like, the only thing you know about Yu-Gi-Oh is that you had Junk Warrior as a card once.
And Buster Blader. And One-Eyed Shield Dragon.
And One-Eyed Shield. Exactly. You had 3 whole cards.
I had more than that, but
yeah,
those 3, were cool.
Yeah. But do you guys have any like whole franchises that like are that sort of thing that you have played like a bunch of before? I'm sure there might be like at least like one series or something where that you guys have like...
The closest thing that comes to mind, at least immediately, is the Batman Arkham games, which are...
Landon called this before we started our call. Before you jumped in the call.
You knew that I was going to talk about Batman Arkham. Yeah, of course I am. Because they're good games, except for Arkham Knight.
It's a weird way to say Arkham Origins.
Arkham Origins is good. I mean, like, it's not amazing.
Arkham City.
No, Arkham, shut the fuck up. But yeah, you got Arkham Asylum, Arkham City are both fantastic games. Arkham Origins is like, it's a fun side game that's mostly like just it was mostly just like I mean, it's a prequel, obviously, to the first 2 games, but like, it wasn't the game that they had like their sole focus on at the time. A lot of assets were just borrowed from Arkham City. And then there's Arkham Knight, and I don't like that game very much. But overall, good series. 3 out of 4 is a good batting average.
You forgot Batman Arkham VR.
I have not played that one, and I don't care to.
Which one is it based on? Or is it like a smorgasbord?
I have no clue, actually.
Yeah.
It's its own standalone game.
Isn't it only like 2 hours long?
Something like, I mean, it's a VR game.
Yeah. Play Arkham Knight for us
for $5.
Al says, play Arkham Knight for us, Jack. I will think about it one day after I've played the first 3 games before it.
Now, question, have you played any other Batman games? Because, like, I've played, like, 1.
No, I don't think I have.
Okay, because
I
I
played the
remember
one based off of the with the Chris Nolan, the first Chris
Oh,
Nolan.
Batman Begins.
Yeah.
that's an interesting one-off game to play out of everything. Because the one
Well,
that
I mean, I've also played the Arkham games, but
because I've played my one Batman game was, I think it was the Adventures of Batman and Robin on the Super Nintendo. All I remember is that there was a level with a bunch of colorful blocks as one of the stages. I think there was like one where there was like a roller coaster or something as well. I don't know. I remember that game being pretty solid. It was quite a bit of fun. I never beat it though. Like some of the the Super Nintendo games are kind of hard. And I was a kid. I was a stupid kid. So I could not beat. I don't even remember how far in I got into this game. So.
Do you remember much about Batman Begins, Landon?
was it? I'm trying to find the cover art just to make sure it's the right one.
I'll post it in the spoilers. I just had
I just found it. Okay. The only thing I remember from it, and it is Batman Begins, yeah, was the section. I don't know if I was playing it or if it was my brother who was actually playing it, and he was like stuck on a part, and he was like here because that happened a lot. And I just remember it was during the first part, like the beginning of the movie, where he's doing the training, and like there's a stealth mission where you have to run through like the temple, and it was dumb. And I was like, this is dumb. You can have the controller back, kid. I said to a man that is 11 years older than me.
Did you actually say those words?
Probably not. I was
like, here you go, kid.
What was this? 2005. So
yeah.
No, I
so,
definitely
so you
did
were
not
12
say those
years
words.
old. Not as 12
Yeah.
years old, you wouldn't say that. I feel like 12-year-old Landon had the capability of saying those words to a 20-something-year-old.
Sure.
I do remember back in the day you said like this was like way back when you were like, shut the fuck up, kid. And I'm like, don't call me a kid. I'm an adult. And he's like, I'll call anyone kid. I call my dad kid.
I remember this.
That is several years in the future from 2005.
True.
All right,
about
that's true.
10.
Okay.
Still though.
Fair enough. Going back to mentioning Super Nintendo games, since I had mentioned the Batman game, a lot of like weird random like licensed games I played happened to be like during that era because I was a kid, so like I didn't know whether games were, good or not back then. But I just thought it was cool, and there was obviously a bunch of stuff I watched on TV and I thought it was cool, and then there was video games based on it. So I thought that was cool, and then I would play like a lot of these games. And
isn't that the concept behind licensed games?
Yeah, exactly. There you go. You see where they made me a sucker.
Yeah.
They got
have this.
I got God.
Have this dumbass.
Yep.
Spend money.
Exactly. One of my favorite games of the era, though, was the game based on Toy Story. The first one. I know the second one is really, really good, and I haven't been able to play Toy Story 2, but I played Toy Story 1, especially on the Genesis where it has like an extra level or whatever. But like that game was actually really solid. I remember there was like, so it's a side-scrolling game, but like especially on like the Genesis, they managed to make like the graphics, especially for like the sprites, like really, really detailed for their time. I remember the developers getting like a lot of like praise because they managed to like have that sort of like fidelity on that game. But I remember there was like a level based on Andy's room. There was a level based on Pizza Planet. There was like one of the last levels is based on the chase for the moving van down the road. Like there was a lot of like iconic moments that were put into that game, and like I thought it was great. I actually managed to beat it. Like I think it was like 10 years old or something. I don't know. I remember I beat it in foster care. So I want to say it was 10. I'm pretty sure I beat it when I was in foster care. because my aunt had a Genesis. It was probably that. I know little baby Jack probably never got, I mean, besides Goof Troop, like, hasn't really like deep dived into a lot of like licensed like 16-bit era games.
I've played a few of them.
Yeah.
I love Aladdin.
Aladdin's
He's probably played more than I have.
Nintendo.
Really? You haven't played a whole lot of licensed games from the 16-bit era?
I mean,
it's crazy too, because like that's the era where like a lot of good ones came out. Like you had the Aladdin game, the Toy Story game, the the Batman and Robin game was pretty good.
Those aren't Pokemon.
That's true.
So
Mickey's Castle, the Mickey Illusion games.
I
Castle of Illusion. That's pretty good.
I played that one. No, it's because I didn't have like a Super Nintendo, or Genesis. And that's not like what one of my stepbrothers was like really playing, who like owned those consoles. So like my access to like that type of stuff was very limited. It's whatever was on like the Game Boy. So like the stuff I had was like I said, I had those Lego games, and then I had like Lego Island 2 for the Game Boy Color.
Speaking of Game Boy, did you play any like what licensed games have you played on the Game Boy? Because I've played like one or two.
Lego Island 2 for the Game Boy Color.
So one of the worst.
And I mean, it's not for the Game Boy, but Barbie, the spy agent game for the Game Boy Advance.
Okay.
Badass.
Yeah.
I remember one of the worst games I had ever played was an Austin Powers game for the Game Boy Color.
Oh hell yeah.
And it was Austin Powers, Welcome to My Secret Lair. It was literally just a bunch of really crappy, watered down like board games and stuff, but with Austin Powers skins. And I think there was also like a side-scrolling thing, like sub-game thing that was like really bad. I had played it like 2 minutes, but I played Othello a lot on it.
That's hilarious. I found out which Lego Racer it was. It was Lego Racers 2 that I mentioned earlier for the GBA.
Okay.
Because I think it's the only Lego Racer on the GBA that I could find. And the
first Lego Racer was I think Game Boy Color for the handheld version.
Mm-hmm. I haven't played it in fucking ages. I remember not liking it because it kind of played like ass.
I mean, it's a GBA racing game, and then it's based on a licensed thing to boot. So
also predating fucking Super Circuit as well. So
wait, how it predated Super Circuit? Super Circuit came out like within like the first couple of months
of the GBA. Baby.
Yeah, it came out in 2001. Really? Yeah. I mean, it wasn't a launch title, but it like came out like shortly after the GBA come out.
Okay, you know what? It does not predate Super Circuit.
That makes it even worse then.
It came out 2 months after.
That makes it even worse because like Super Circuit had already set the standard, and these other games are like crashing a bit.
You can't expect like a whole dev team to change stuff in less than 2 months.
And you can't expect a dev team to like be able to replicate what a team that's worked with Nintendo directly before and was making a game on their hardware and like knew what they were doing. So because you had Intelligent Systems working on, like they knew what they were doing with Mario Kart Super Circuit.
Allegedly.
So Landon, you did not play this game then, but there is a Game Boy licensed game that I did play. And I think I talked about it like once before. There was a Smurfs game on the Game Boy that I played.
You did talk about this before.
A lot of, yes. I beat it once or twice. I'm sad. I have the cartridge for it, not the one that I had originally had as a kid, but I bought another version of it. But like I can't get it to work. Like I've tried cleaning the pins and everything, and I just can't get it to run. So unfortunately, I can't play that actual cartridge. But it's a pretty fun game. It's also a side scroller, and I remember there was like the whole what's the name of like the the evil dude from the Smurfs. I don't remember. Like I remember like they have him as like a final boss, and you have to like
Slagathor.
I think it's Earth's.
I don't. Gargamel. That's his
Gargamel.
name.
There it is. Okay, I remember he was the final boss, and he like I can't. There was like this weird like unique final boss fight that like before I hadn't seen it in like a platformer, but that was also like probably the first platformer I ever beat. So for that, I just remember having nostalgia for it because at the time that was like something new for me.
Well, I might not have ever played any of these games, but I did watch someone play Tasmanian Devil video game.
Way back in the day.
I played, so it wasn't for the Game Boy, but I played a Taz game. It was Bugs and Taz, and can't remember the exact name of the game, but it was on the PS1, and it was like the follow up to a Bugs Bunny game. It was
not the follow up to the one that Justin Let's
LP'd.
played.
No, it wasn't. They weren't connected.
Damn.
The one that I played was connected to the previous PS1 game that had come out. And it's like it was a 3D platformer where you switch off between Bugs and Taz, and like they go through different time periods. So like I want to say it was like Bugs and Taz Lost in Time or something like that. I remember it being quite a bit of fun. I mean, it was kind of just, your bog standard 3D platformer, but like there was nothing inherently wrong with it. It was cool being able to switch between Bugs and Taz. The game played well enough, and it was cool. Like I remember going to like, I think the second, I don't know, remember if it's the first or the second world, but like I just remember spending a lot of time in the world that was based on the Aztecs. So, I mean, it was interesting.
Here's a game that I am pretty sure neither of you two have played that I have. Shout out, and by shout out I mean shout out to the Aragon video game.
The Aragon video game?
Aragon, released in 2006. It is it's like an action like hack and slash type game similar to God of War. It is dog shit.
I bet.
Have I ever talked to you guys about my relationship with Aragon?
No, I don't think
so. The film, the book, or the game?
Yes. So I read through the first book as a kid, and I was like, hell yeah. I like really got into it, and I think I started reading the second book. Mm-hmm. The movie came out, and I don't know why. I never went. My family went, and I was sick. And then I heard them say, this movie's dog shit. And I was like, you got it, dude.
You got it, dude.
I've never watched the
seen
movie.
It. That's fucking... Landon, we got to do a commentary for it one day.
Like,
no.
bad movie commentary.
It's so bad.
I've heard awful things. And, like, I'm so far removed from, like, the book world now that I don't remember. He like finds the dragon egg and like raises a dragon.
I mean, I haven't read the book in forever either. Like I remember liking it.
Yeah.
And then the movie was bad. And the game is based on the movie.
So it's bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Based on go ahead.
No, I mean it was just it's from that era, so it's bad.
I'm going to like kind of just lean on that point about like not the movie being bad, but I played a game based on a movie back from like the PS1 that was this game was dog shit. You want to know which game I played? Fucking Warpath Jurassic Park. Have you ever heard of this game?
That's not real.
It is
he's making shit up.
It is a fighting game for the PS1 based on Jurassic Park. Yes, a fighting game, and you play as the dinosaurs. But the game is dog shit because it controls like ass. Everything feels tanky. The end lag on moves is just disgustingly long. It's
It's just shit Tekken.
It's shit Tekken. It's so bad.
But with dinosaurs.
Exactly. Like, I remember I had a fun time playing it because, I mean, who's not going to have a fun time playing a game where you get to fight as a dinosaur? But the game's not good. The game sucks.
Honestly though, like, if they had like a competent dev team behind it, that would be sick as fuck.
That would be sick as fuck. Too bad this game sucks ass.
Why is it a fighting game?
I don't know. Like, that's the funny thing. I just remember playing it, and it was just the most disgusting thing I've ever seen.
It also came out in 1999, 5 years after the first Jurassic Park.
Yep. That is a funny ass game.
Make a rail shooter.
Published by EA and DreamWorks.
But Jurassic Park is like a franchise that's like made to be a rail shooter.
Yeah.
Honestly.
I mean,
they could
have done a Pokemon Snap style game for Jurassic Park.
They could have.
And on rail take pictures with the game. Why didn't they do this?
Yeah, so like rail shooters and the park sims, because they have those park sims that are out nowadays for Jurassic Park.
I'm gonna look like a complete dumbass if they've actually made this kind of game and I just don't know it exists.
I mean, probably, but
you want to know a dog shit game based on a dog shit movie that I've played?
Sure, go off.
The Golden Compass.
What?
Do you guys remember The Golden Compass?
No. I never watched the movie, but it's the one with the polar bear, right?
Yeah. It's the one with the polar bear. It came out in like 2006 or 7. I don't remember. But my friends and I used to have like a thing because my buddy David, he bought a copy of this at I think it was Mega Replay for like $1. And we had like a thing where we would like place bets against each other, and whoever lost had to play an hour of The Golden Compass. And it's just a really bad, like, it's almost like a Prince of Persia type game. Like, it's kind of like an action adventure / 3D platformer / like puzzle game. It's bad. It's so bad.
One like games I can remember, like in sort of like the PS2 Cube era, Shrek 2.
Hell yeah.
Play through Shrek 2. Game's dog shit. There was Disney's Magical Mirror starring Mickey Mouse, which is like a 3D platformer point and click game. Yeah.
Platformer.
I remember being okay.
Click?
Yeah.
Do you know how? Do you remember how that works? Because that sounds interesting.
It was like you had like you would go into a room and you would like run around in it and like collect things and like interact with stuff.
Okay. It's
been a long time. I only rented it. I never owned it. So I like maybe got like 3 hours of playtime out of it. I know I've talked about them before, but there was like some Disney sports games, like the Disney Skate game, where I would just make the tallest.
That one's actually good as fuck.
Yeah, I would make the tallest, fattest kid and just do sick tricks.
It was like because it was literally just using the
Tony
Pro Skater engine.
Yeah.
My biggest experience with Disney licensed games was the Magical Mystery Tour Kart Racer on the PS1. Stream for that at some point. I remember you mentioning that. I remember you mentioning that in a previous podcast. It's a legitimately fun game. It doesn't have a whole lot of courses. It has like 10 unique courses and then like a few like sandboxy courses where you don't actually do full races. You're just like collecting stuff. And like there's like a bunch of different characters that you can unlock. So like that one's pretty fun. I'm pretty sure you were about to talk about Tony Hawk though, right?
I was about to ask if that qualified as a licensed game because all of the playable character, like outside of like shit like Eric Sparrow, like almost every playable character in Tony Hawk is a real life skater or in some cases superheroes. because you have like Spider-Man and Iron Man and
So here's my
Gene
question.
Simmons.
Here's my question.
Superhero Gene
Here's my question to answer your question. If we count Tony Hawk, can we count the WWE games?
Oh, absolutely.
Then there you go.
Well, the WWE games are definitely licensed. Well,
100%.
Here's the fun one. Do any of the NCAA video games count as licensing if NCAA doesn't pay the players for likeness?
That part is tricky.
That part's tricky.
The thing is, though, you do have actual schools in those games, just not actual players.
Yeah. Which is kind of fucked.
That's the fun thing.
I mean, it's like, it's the law. I mean, you can't pay students for licensing.
Oh, they could have. They just choose not to. Yeah. So going back to like bad Disney games, do you guys know the original The Incredibles 2? Not the movie.
I don't know about the game.
The Incredibles 2 game?
So it wasn't called The Incredibles 2 for the video game, but it was The Incredibles Rise of the Underminer, and it was set right after the events of the first one where like the Underminer comes up, digs up from the town.
I'm actually not familiar with this one at all.
Oh, it was go ahead.
No, you go ahead. You
okay.
You talk about this one.
It was like a 2D or not 2D, sorry. It was a 3D 2-player like action brawler. And you got to play as Mr. Incredible and Frozone. And you like ran through
just those two?
Just those two. Everyone else was like topside. Like those two get like thrown underground and everyone else is like topside.
Okay.
And it was supposed to like just follow the events of the ending of The Incredibles, and then it was completely retconned and like thrown away because it was not great.
That's weird.
Yeah. I will say I have played the original Incredibles game. It's been a very long time. The only level I remember from it is the one where you play as Dash and you have to like make it to school on time, and it's basically just like the fucking like, what the fuck do you call those sections in Sonic 06 where the Mach Speed section?
Yeah, Mach Speed.
It's literally just that.
Ew.
There was that, and then there was one where it was Dash and Violet. So Violet was doing like the force field, and Dash was running over water,
just like Sonic 06.
Just like Sonic 06. That game was not good either.
Yeah,
and then
it was not.
Al in the chat brought up the Jimmy Neutron games.
Oh shit!
I never touched those.
There was this is lost media. My friends and I did like a Let's Play of Jimmy Neutron Jet Fusion for the GameCube. It was hilarious, but unfortunately the footage got corrupted, so it never saw the light of day. But that game is bad. I still own it. It's still sitting around somewhere. I don't even have a case for it. It's just a loose disc, but it still works somehow.
Going back to the note that we had made about like long running series, like you mentioned Tony Hawk. How many Tony Hawk games have you played? Like which ones have you? Would it be quicker to say the ones that you haven't played?
Yeah, actually. Let's see. Let me Google list of Tony Hawk games real quick.
Okay.
I will say most of the ones that I haven't played are gonna be like the handheld ones I haven't really touched too much. I've played all 4 of the Pro Skaters. I've played Underground, Underground 2, American Wasteland. I've played Downhill Jam. Project 8 I've played a little bit of. I never owned it, but my cousin had it. And I remember like there was a couple weekends where I stayed over at his house and we played that. But I played a little bit of Proving Ground, but not much. From what little I've played, I'm not really missing much. Let's see. I have never played Tony Hawk's Motion, which was the DS game where you have to put in like the motion like GBA cart into the GBA slot, and you basically just like control your balancing with this fucking extra peripheral that's in your DS Lite or DS Fat. Yeah. There is a mobile game called Tony Hawk Vert that I've never played. I have played very, very little, like probably 5 minutes of Tony Hawk's Ride, and it sucks. That's the one where you have like the whole skateboard peripheral, and you have to like actually control it like you're skateboarding. It's bad.
I remember
it's so clunky.
I think I remember seeing that advertised, and I was just not. I was like, no, I'm never.
And
this.
they made 2 of those games because they also made Tony Hawk Shred a year later.
Ew.
There was Pro Skater HD in 2012, which was an absolutely terrible remake of the first Pro Skater. There was Pro Skater 5, which was just a really, really sad game that I never played because it looked like dog shit. And from what everyone has said, it was dog shit.
So they didn't miss anything.
And then there was Pro Skater 1+2, and that one's great. So
all right.
An actual good remake of the first Pro Skater and the second one.
So I played quite a lot of WWE games. There's way too many for me to actually list the ones I didn't play, because I did play less than I actually did not play. But I remember playing, there was a WWE Warzone, I think was the name of it. It was a game centered on WWE Raw at the time for the PS1. I think it was called Warzone. I might be mistaken. There was a WWE game, obviously, when it was called WWF, as well as the last game that I mentioned. I don't know which one it's for.
No Mercy.
I mean, not which one it's for. It's but no, there was a Super Nintendo game that I played. It's probably Super WrestleMania. If I had to take a guess, that's probably it. I don't know. That's my guess. It's probably Super WrestleMania. I remember playing that one a lot. I like that one. I played quite a lot on the PS2. I played Shut Your Mouth. I played SmackDown vs. Raw 2006. I played a really bad WWE game that was not a wrestling game. It was called WWE Crush Hour, and it was a really bad Twisted Metal ripoff with like angst on the level of Shadow the Hedgehog. It is cringe. It is terrible. And if you want to find something funny for an afternoon, that might be up your alley. That's the kind of game where, Jack, if you wanted to like do one of those play a really dumb bad game like moments, like that's the kind of game that you would play for it. It's really bad.
Okay. I do love me a good bad game.
It's a good bad game. I'll say that much.
Gross.
Yeah. So Crush Hour. I also started playing one for the PS4. I think it's 2K18. I don't remember which one it is. I just remember that I like the idea that you start in NXT and then like you work your way into the WWE proper, and then they have like all of the belts from both SmackDown and Raw, and like you can choose like which ones you want to go to, and like you can make your own title belt series, just like you could start doing that. And I think it was WWE SmackDown versus Raw 1 that started something like that. I don't know. I've always enjoyed like being able to make my own custom wrestler, and then just like having them do like the dumbest shit in like the campaign modes of like some of the different games. Like that was always one of my favorite things, was like the ridiculous things that they come up with for the campaign, which is why I loved Shut Your Mouth and the SmackDown vs. Raw games that I played on the PS2, because that was like peak dumb campaign shit based right on the frickin' WWE shows.
Can I divert the subject slightly?
Oh, go ahead.
And by slightly, I mean just do a different topic. Just because I was scrolling through the list of license on Wikipedia, the list of licensed games based on films. Guess how many Top Gun games there are?
12.
17.
Cloud, you were very close. It is 13.
Wow.
There are 13 Top Gun games.
That's more than I was thinking that there would be. When I guessed 12, I guessed more than I actually thought there would be. Like you said Top Gun, I'm like, that's probably like 4 or 5 or 6, right?
13.
And then when you said guess, I was like, ooh, there's a lot more than I'm thinking.
There's Top Gun in 1986. Another game called Top Gun released 1 year later by Konami. The first one was by Ocean Software. Top Gun The Second Mission, Top Gun Danger Zone, Top Gun Fire at Will, Top Gun Guts and Glory, Top Gun Hornet's Nest. These all came out in the 90s, by the way. All of those anyway.
Top Gun was a pretty big deal back in the 90s.
It came out in like 85 though.
But it was a big deal in the 90s.
Fucking weird. And then in 2006, 2007, and 2010, there were 3 games all just called Top Gun.
That's okay.
Which is hilarious. And there's even more that I didn't name, but like that's hilarious to me.
Landon, how many Godzilla games have you played? Like, I just thought of that now. I was like, wait a minute. We got to talk about Godzilla, right?
3 or 4. I really haven't played that many because the number of Godzilla games that have actually come out stateside
there's not nearly
way
that
smaller.
Many, right?
But obviously, shout outs to your boy Godzilla Destroy All Monsters Melee for the Cube.
Okay.
Classic.
I did recently buy Godzilla Unleashed Double Smash for the DS. I haven't got a chance to try it, but I do want to play that. I would say the big one that I spent a lot of hours on was the Godzilla game from 2016, the PS4 one that is no longer available and is like $300 to purchase because
that's expensive.
Yeah,
collectors. Am I right?
It is an awful game. By that I mean it's not good. It's not like dog shit. It's just bad. And yeah, it's but it like gets the character models down really well. So like, because like all of like Godzilla and like all of the monsters that you play as, all of those models look fantastic. The rest of the game looks like
garbage, hot poopy doo-doo.
Yeah, it looks like a PS, like really early PS2 like cityscapes.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's funny. But I mean, yeah, there's some really good, like Destroy All Monsters Melee is like really good.
Going back to you, Jack, I'm guessing you had like other movie tie-in games that you were thinking about? Besides Top Gun.
I've never played any of those Top Gun games, by the way.
I know.
I was just looking.
I had a feeling. I was like, there's no way you played any of these.
No, not even. Well, technically, Scott Pilgrim versus the World, the game, is technically based on the movie, which is based on the comics.
It'd be a licensed game either way.
Yeah. Although I'd say like aesthetically it borrows more from the comics than
the movie. For sure. Like it looks like it's a pixelated version jumping right out of the comics.
But it was released like in tandem with the movie, so yeah. And that's a good game. That's a real good game. We streamed that one. Go watch the VODs.
I want to go back to something that Landon had mentioned with like, speaking of series franchises that are really popular in Japan that have licensed games that we didn't really get too many of here. Super Robot Wars is a series that has games in it that I played, and I feel like I would be remiss if with Al in our chat right now as we do our live stream version of this, if I don't talk about Super Robot Wars. If you guys don't know what Super Robot Wars is, it is a strategy RPG series where you essentially have just a ton of different like mecha anime represented with characters and like the different the different mechs and stuff throughout the series. They might not pull everything. They might just pull like a select few from like each thing. And over the course of the game, you meet more and more of them, and you're helping the good guy pilots and mechs to fight whatever like evil plot line comes from them. And then there's also like an overarching thing as you continue through the game. Usually you are playing an OC that they created for that specific game, but you'll get to like encounter, depending on the game, all sorts of like famous mecha characters and units. It's insane. There's like a bunch of cool, like, you can upgrade your units with points that you get across the fights. All of them have like different skills and stuff. Obviously, like, you have different actions that might be more effective on certain units than not. And it's a really solid series gameplay wise. And like, if you like mecha anime at all, even if you don't know all the different mecha anime that they cover, I think the Super Robot Wars games are pretty solid. I have to get back and play some more of the ones that I own one that I like got a part way in because I was streaming it that I have to get back to. I played one on the PSP and it's split into 2 games. And I got like halfway into the second half, but then the computer I was playing it on crashed, so I haven't been able to play it since. But there's some pretty good games, and I like that they have like representation from like Gurren Lagann, Neon Genesis Evangelion. You got Gundam in there. You've got some classics like Mazinger Z and Getter Robo, and just a lot of cool stuff, to be honest.
Badass.
Al says he likes that I beat the one that had 0 plot translation.
Hell yeah.
I remember going through that game because like the PSP one, there was no translation patch. I don't know if they made a translation patch since, but at the time there wasn't one, and I like skipped through the whole story, didn't know anything going on.
You're just like, big robots, swing weapon.
Big robots, big lasers, swing weapon, exactly.
Hell yeah. I have not played any of the Super Robot Wars games, so I can't speak on them personally.
But you played Project Cross Zone, which features a character from Super Robot Wars.
Somewhat similar. A little bit. Not too much, but
an original character to Super Robot Wars and not like one of the crossover characters. So
yeah.
That's funny.
I guess so. I just love, like, scrolling through this list is honestly really entertaining because you find some shit that I had no idea existed. Like, here we have so in 1985 there was a musical only released in the UK. Oh wait, no, it was released in the US as well. Starring Paul McCartney called Give My Regards to Broad Street. And there was a video game based off of it released in 1985 for the Commodore 64 and the ZX Spectrum.
Why?
The fuck?
I have no fucking clue, but that's hilarious.
Why do these exist?
That's weird.
I don't even know what kind of game it is. It's just like a footnote on the like the Wikipedia page for the film.
I'm glad Paul McCartney is a footnote now.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of Paul McCartnney, though, Beatles Rock Band, does that qualify?
It uses Beatles music. I would say that's a license.
Beatles music, real Beatles.
Now I mentioned this near the beginning. Even if like the game's concept itself is not licensed, if it heavily relies on licensed content, I'd say it counts. We can talk about stuff like that.
I would say Guitar Hero or Rock Band Beatles is the license for like any of those that is like,
because it's literally licensed. The band. It's not even just
that,
like random
like there's what
it's that Guitar Hero Metallica, Guitar Hero Aerosmith, Guitar Hero or Green Day Rock Band,
Lego Rock Band,
Lego, there you go.
There you go. So those are the mystical double licensed games.
I think Lego Rock Band actually may be the most licensed game out of all of them, because in that game you also have like Lego versions of like Freddie Mercury and shit like that.
Oh god.
So that's about as licensed as it gets.
That's like several layers of licensing.
It's pretty great. And even not just that, but like in some games you have like real artists just as like playable or like not technically playable characters in some instances, but like they appear in the game. You have like Tom Morello and Slash in Guitar Hero 3. You have Ozzy and Kurt Cobain in Guitar Hero World Tour. Shit like that. And
what are your
what
are your favorite out of like those like games, like the Guitar Hero and Rock Band games?
Because
they are very because they are like very adjacent to each other.
Guitar Hero 3 and Rock Band 2 are the best ones.
Guitar Hero 3 is so fucking good.
I've literally been thinking about that. Like, I want to stream that one day, but at the same time, the VODs would just be like, we could not export the VODs at all because the whole thing would just be muted.
Yeah, they could live on Twitch.
They could live on Twitch, but even then,
the VODs on Twitch would also be on Twitch. But at least we'd be able to do the live stream.
We might be able to get away with it if we stream it on YouTube and be able to save the VODs that way. But I've never streamed on YouTube before, and I have no idea how.
We did it for the D&D
campaign.
Yeah, we streamed through the D&D campaign.
He was part of that. He was live on YouTube.
Me personally,
you haven't set it up.
I haven't set it up.
It's a little tricky at first, but like it's not that hard. It's pretty easy to get into.
But like,
hey, speaking of D&D campaign.
Oh.
Hey, Cloud, you want to do it? You want to do the Patreon segue real quick?
You know what? I guess I can, but I am going to continue to talk about similarly related stuff after that.
That's fine.
Okay.
This is a good...
stand up.
I was going to say, this is a good point for us to take a quick break to talk about our... And by we, I mean they're going to take a quick break while I don't get to have a break because I have to talk to you guys about our social medias. We've got a Patreon patreon.com/GamingStooges. We've got our 2 tiers. We've got the Silver Stooge tier, which gives us general support. We thank you guys a lot for that. And of course, access to voting in polls to determine future content. So if you ever want to have a say in what we're going to do next, we throw up polls regularly and you can decide for $3 a month. $6 tier, we have the special shout out, which I believe that Pixel Vixen is still on that tier. So I will look and make sure that is the case. But yeah, thank you, Pixel, of course, as always. And if you're part of that Silver Stooge tier, Gold Stooge, I think we have Silver Stooge and Gold Stooge. If you're a Gold Stooge, you can also access exclusive content. And right now we've got a really cool tabletop campaign that Landon is hosting for Delta Green. Last Things Last. We have the first part already up, and we've got a second part that's going to be coming very soon, later this month. By the time this goes out to other platforms, it should be right around the time that the second part is going to be going out to Patreon. We have YouTube, youtube.com/GamingStooges. You might be watching this over there when it goes up, although just if you are watching on YouTube, just know this was already on Twitch Live. So you can join live if you go to twitch.tv/GamingStooges. We've got a Discord. You can join. The link is in the description in our different spots there. We've got, of course, our podcast goes on many different platforms. We've got Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, podcasts, whatever. Like, I'm gonna think about trying to stretch it out to some more platforms. I noticed that you can do podcasts on Pandora Radio. I think that'd be cool. So like, I'm gonna try and look at other platforms that we can stretch out to, because there's even more platforms that the RSS will be able to go through. But yeah, there's just we've got a lot going on. Landon, what are we doing currently on Twitch?
We are finishing up Apollo Justice. That's be happening tomorrow as of the streaming of this, and we will be starting Crystallis and Banjo-Kazooie,
Banjo-Kazooie,
which were both voted on by patrons.
You, the patrons.
And quick update on the figure box, because Al brought it up. It's only the plastic right here that's all like messed up.
Okay.
The glare makes it look like
there's more.
The inside is like, but that's like the inside plastic. It's just this is a little warped. But he's fine. Whoever's in here. You're not allowed to know who's in here.
No?
No. It's a spoiler.
Ooh.
I let a spoiler sit right behind me every single time we record one of these because it's funny.
It is. That's pretty clever. I won't lie. What's the chicken spoiling? Or is that just a chicken?
That's just a chicken. That's the podcast chicken.
Oh, okay. The podcast.
Yeah,
chicken.
no one can see it now because you cut.
Oh yeah, true.
But there is a chicken here.
The podcast chicken just lives there forever.
Yeah, it does.
So does the sun.
So getting back to our main topic, we've been talking about licensed games, and we just started talking about rhythm and music games specifically, which are in some manner or another are heavily reliant on licensing. Even if they're not licensed games, they can still rely on all this licensed music. So it does count.
Is this the part where you talk about Super Beat Sonic?
No, actually.
Yes.
I know.
This is the part where I talk about Super Beat Sonic.
You can.
And Tillamook medium cheddar snack pack cheese.
No, this is actually the part where I managed to talk for an extended period of time about Hatsune Miku Project Diva, because that is a rhythm game series that is based on a voice sound bank series of products that Krypton Future Media sells. You buy this like voice bank, and then like you can use the synthesizer to like make. A lot of people make music. That's what it's usually used for. You don't specifically have to use it for that, but that's what the vast majority of people do. So there is a rhythm game series based on this whole product line and the characters. And
I thought Project Diva F was based off of the future president of the United States of America.
God, I wish. God, I wish.
Hatsune Miku.
Yeah. that would probably be one of the best presidents we've had in a long time. So, but yes, I have been playing a lot of Hatsune Miku games. I've actually collected several of the PSP titles. They're in Japanese. They weren't released over here, but PSP is region free, and literally the only thing you need to understand in the menu, like when you're playing a foreign language title for like a rhythm game, is how to navigate the menus. And like through the power of Google Translate, you can just take a picture of the menu and then it just translates it. And then I already know what everything is at that point. But the Hatsune Miku games are interesting. So like rhythm games, they handle how they do like showing you stuff in different ways. So how Hatsune Miku does it is that since it's primarily a PlayStation series, you'll have like the icons for like circle, X, triangle, square, like pop up all over parts of the screen. And then the shapes actually start flying towards those icons. And the icons have like a little timer that's like going around, like a little clock hand. So you match up the stuff as it's going along. And there's usually, not always, but there is usually a PV associated. So it's kind of like as you play the notes, you're like part of that story of the PV. Like it's usually a music video. Like I said, not always. Like a couple of the early games and like the most recent one, they have like some just like anime style music video that's just like flashing images and stuff. And like in the first game, they just used still fan art and just like PowerPoint presentation rotated between images for a few songs. But like for all the other songs where there's like a PV, it's pretty cool to see like the characters dancing around. Or there's like one song where it's like called Kagero Days, where like the whole story is about like being trapped in a time loop over the summer. and like the PV that goes with it is like associated with that. So like I like rhythm games that do that. Like Elite Beat Agents does something similar where like there's like a whole like music video that's taking part on the top screen as you're doing like the actual notes, and there's like a whole story being told. And I love when rhythm games do that. Like just have some like wacky shit going on while you're playing the song that's like accompanying it. So like I played a fair share of rhythm games, and like a lot of my favorites have that sort of thing going on for them. I've also played Taiko no Tetsujin. I don't know if you guys have played any of the Taiko games. I enjoy them. I mean, they're very simple. They follow more along the Guitar Hero Rock Band style thing where like the notes are just coming at you from a certain part of the screen, and they'll be moving towards like your spot where you line everything up and time everything. The thing I like about the Taiko no Tetsujin games is although the songs are usually very short, because like rhythm games, I like the ones where like they keep the song as long as possible. Like Project Diva is usually like 3.5 minutes. The Guitar Hero games, they usually play the song in its entirety. They'll usually pick like 3-minute songs or so, but like they'll usually play the whole thing. Same with Elite Beat Agents, they pretty much play like the whole song. Taiko no Tetsujin, the songs are usually very like short. Like they're only usually like 1.5 to 2 minutes, but they have a fuck ton of songs. Like, and they're from all over the place. You've got like Bandai Namco original music, you've got anime songs, you've got like they got a whole bunch of like video game music from like other series. They have just a lot of different stuff. So like it's some games they go based on like variety of music. Sometimes they have like a smaller selection, but like they try to like push the quality of the actual like note charts and the length of the song a little bit more.
You know what game qualifies as a licensed game based on our own definitions?
Crazy Taxi?
Yes, actually. I wasn't going to say that, but yeah, there's a lot of, I mean, like it's got Offspring and Bad Religion, and then there's like you have Pizza Hut and Taco Bell and Tower Records and shit like that. But no, that's not what I was going to say. Donkey Konga.
Oh.
Wait, the songs in Donkey Konga are like
oh yeah,
from other stuff.
Donkey Konga has a lot of licensed music in it. You have like Earth, Wind and Fire.
That's funny. That is funny.
The B-52s, Devo, Blink 182.
What?
Chumbawamba.
I did not know that this is that's what Donkey Konga has?
Like, oh yeah. They have the Mighty Mighty Boss Tones.
That's so funny.
Jamiroquai. There's a lot of shit in Donkey Konga.
That is really so funny. I love that.
It's really funny.
I love it. I want to play this game now.
I own it.
That is so funny.
Come over and play it with me. Yeah. So that qualifies. Good old Donkey Kong.
Rhythm games, music games. There's a lot out there, and there's a lot of interesting ones.
Hell yeah. I love me a rhythm game.
I just watched Cheese Whiz dump a third of the litter box that's in the office.
Wow.
Just out.
Yeah, that's what Beans does. He'll just fucking kick shit out onto the floor.
So didn't you want to talk to us about Super Beat Sonic?
Oh yeah.
I mean, it is licensed music. Like it is like actual like music. It's not just music. It's not just. I mean, a lot of the music we don't know. Like we probably discovered through that game, but like it's actual music that existed.
A lot of it's like club music from like
Japan
and Korea and stuff. What do I know about that? I mean, it's a fun rhythm game. It has the eternal meme that we
There's no way out.
Thinking back on
you and me remembering.
God.
Like that. Yeah, it's fun.
All I know is there's a song in that game called Fantastic, and that shit is a bop, and I love it.
Yeah, that one has a lot of good music. I agree.
Have you played many rhythm games outside of like the ones we've already talked about that like have licensed stuff? Because I mean, you play a lot of rhythm games, but interestingly, quite a few of them are not using licensed music, but are actually like music that they created for the game, such as the Bit Trip games. But that's not really the same thing.
Well, the Bit Trip games have licensed music.
They
In
do.
some cases, yes.
In
in
some,
the
that's interesting.
so for the original series, all of the like the menu and then the ending credits, except for Flux, are all licensed music.
Oh,
Yeah, they like partner up with chiptune artists and like they basically license their music to use in
Yeah.
those games.
I think that's interesting that they did things in reverse because usually games that have music that is licensed, the music that's licensed is the stuff you play, and the menu music is what they create like separate of that. But for Bit Trip, it's like it's the other way around. Very interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, was
So,
there any
yeah.
other rhythm games while we're still on the subject?
rhythm games? Not that I can think of.
Okay.
Off the top of my head, it doesn't I wouldn't say it qualifies as a licensed game, but technically Audio Surf, you can just add whatever song you want to that and it will like create a track for you based on whatever song it is. Like as long as you have like the file on your computer, you can like select it and it will like generate a track for you to ride on and play. And
But they didn't pay for the licensing to be able to use those
it's
files.
it's
so.
just yeah, so that instance does not qualify, but
you can use licensed music.
Licensed music in it.
Yeah. It's like Rocksmith and you just play free mode and just
pretty much
fucking noodle around on whatever and it ends up being.
I'm gonna say that reminds me of like people that like put a shit ton of different songs into Osu. Like that game has like so many fucking songs that like fans just throw into the game.
You know what? We haven't talked about it yet because none of us play it.
Oh geez.
Fortnite. But the reason I thought of it is specifically because of Fortnite Festival, which does actually have like a selection of licensed music to play.
Well, it's a good thing none of us have played it, so we don't have to talk about it. Anyway, I remember playing a lot of the TMNT game from 2003 as a kid with my brother. Let's move back on to beat 'em ups. Okay. We talked about Scott Pilgrim and
I don't.
Was that the GameCube?
Yeah, it was GameCube PS2. It was based off of like that era's animated series.
Mm-hmm.
I remember it being very mediocre and very hard because we got stuck on it was like the junkyard boss. It might have been like the first major boss in the game. We are literally talking about TMNT games right now, Katie.
Your timing could not honestly be better. Lennon literally just brought up a TMNT game.
I'm not talking about one that's good, like Turtles in Time.
We're talking about a shit one.
Yeah, we're talking about a pretty mid one. So yeah, that one sticks out a lot to me because that was like the era of Turtles like I grew up on, and like I like my brother and I played it and we had fun. But like I played through Turtles in Time and some of those other ones. And Jack and I have to play
Shredder's Revenge, which I do have a copy of on my desk still somewhere.
Right here, Jack. Just waiting for you.
There it is.
I bought that for him.
Yep. We got to play it one day. I have played the only Turtles game I've played is Turtles in Time, which is, that's a great one. Can't speak too much on the rest of the franchise though.
Yeah, I have the Cowabunga collection, and I played a little bit. By a little bit, I probably played through half of it, because it was the Game Boy Turtles game that was on that collection, and it was fun for what it was.
Okay,
But yeah.
so I haven't played like really any TMNT games, but I have played a couple Power Rangers games.
Ooh, Power Rangers.
And so there's two that really stick out. There's one for the Game Boy Color where you can pick one of the different one of the 5 Rangers, and they have like different stats. Like obviously Red Ranger is like all arounder, just generally like decent at everything.
This is Mighty Morphin.
I want to say it was probably just Mighty Morphin for Game Boy Color. That one's like a side-scrolling beat 'em up, mostly action kind of. It's not really a platformer because it's much more action based. So I want to say it's more of like 2D side-scrolling beat 'em up kind of game. But it's not like side scroll or not beat 'em up in the same style as like a TMNT or like a Streets of Rage style game. Like the perspective is still like 2D platformer sort of thing. I like that one. And then there was a fighting game for the Genesis and Super Nintendo, or Super Nintendo specifically. That one. So I think it was Power Rangers the Fighting Edition, and I just remember playing that game because like you could just play as the Megazord. And it was like the wildest thing. And like the Megazord was just so overpowered. I just picked it in like every fight. And I just beat the shit out of like whatever I felt like fighting in that game. And that one was pretty solid. I remember like it handling pretty well. It's been a very long time since I played it. I have to play it again, but
there's the Battle of the Grid game that's out now.
I've heard it's actually pretty decent. I never got to play it.
Yeah.
I remember seeing it at my store when I was like working the electronics department, and I was like, interesting.
Yeah. It even has like the Ryu and Cammy crossover like Rangers that they did for like a comic set. Like they're featured in that game too. So it's pretty cool. I remember playing my brother had some of the Dino Ranger games for like the PS2. Those were real funny. Like there was like a phase of it that was like it was like a tactical defend the fortress type deal, where you would set up, if I remember right, you would set up like barriers to like stop enemies, and then you'd play as the Megazord to like beat them up as you like play through it. It was weird for like that level, but yeah, I remember that.
Trying to like look at like the list of different. There's so many licensed games based on anime. There's so goddamn much. Like
there's a lot.
Jesus Christ.
One game I've neglected to mention until this point, the Simpsons Hit and Run.
Dude,
there's a lot of good Simpsons games.
There's some pretty good
one.
That one is like.
There's the arcade one that is real fun. And then speaking of just arcade games, I'll let you go back to Simpsons. There's the X-Men arcade game that's also really good.
Yeah, I will definitely say that Simpsons Hit and Run was like a core memory game for like the PS2. Like even though my time with that game was relatively short, I definitely vividly remember that game because the selection of vehicles that you could play as in that game was ridiculous. Like there was just so many cool like cars and stuff that you could drive around. And like, I remember like you could do a bunch of cheat codes because it was basically like a Grand Theft Auto game, but with the Simpsons instead. But it like really like it like emphasized the car part So a lot. Like it I remember there was as you go through like the different levels, which are like different areas that you go to, there's like different cars that open up. I remember late in the game there's like a race car that's like it's literally a race car, but like that you can unlock. There was a cheat code that could unlock little like a brick. Like it was just like a brick square cube shaped thing, and for some reason it drove disgustingly fast. I don't remember. Like I just remember doing like cheat codes to like play as like to drive stupid shit that they had as vehicles in that game.
Mm-hmm. I on top of that, I do also have like I remember way back in the day. I don't remember if they still have it. It's been a while since I've been there, but back in the day, and like way back in the day when I was like a young kid, my family and I would vacation up in northern Michigan. And there was one of my favorite pizza places of all time, Vivio's in Petoskey. They had a Simpsons arcade cabinet like in the waiting room, and my sister and I would play that a lot while we were just like waiting to be seated. And I have like memories of that.
One of the vehicles you could unlock when it's with a cheat device in Hit and Run was an ice cream truck. I remember that.
Yep.
I was looking it up. I was looking up the list. I remember playing as the ice cream truck.
The for the Simpsons arcade game, when I went to Aaron's bachelor party, we went to an arcade, and it was like free play. You just paid admission to get in. And so like I like gave myself 99 lives, probably more than that, because it took a while after a couple deaths for the life counter to go down. So we just steamrolled through the game, like four of us, because we were just having fun.
Hell yeah. There are also a lot of bad Simpsons games.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So many. Shout out Simpsons Wrestling.
God.
Which is somehow worse than Sonic the Fighters.
Sonic the Fighters is only really mediocre.
I was gonna say Sonic the Fighters is not that bad. Like it's shallow.
But
like it's fine.
They're both like in wrestling rings though.
Yeah.
Actually, Sonic the Fighters kind of.
I would say like in a couple of instances it is they are in like a ring sort of thing, but like it's not like a hard and fast rule. Like some of the stages they're like not quite.
There's like that plane where they're just on a fucking plane.
Yep.
Or like a boat or some shit. Like there's like those. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I luckily did not play like really any of like the super bad Simpsons games. I wasn't like a huge fan of the Simpsons, so I only played a couple of the games. And luckily, they're two of the good ones because I played Hit and Run and I played Road Rage. And Road Rage is just Crazy Taxi, but Simpsons characters. And I just
hell yeah.
I remember playing that game, and there was God, some of the stuff the characters say was like super hammy. Like I don't remember anything offhand. Like I'm literally gonna look it up right now.
I have also played I have also played the Simpsons movie game, which was on every platform imaginable at the time.
Oh yeah, the Simpsons movie was a big ass deal.
So, and it was like each version of the game had a different box art, which was pretty crazy. Shit, have you guys played the Family Guy video game?
I was gonna ask you if you played, because I thought you played it, right?
I've played a little bit of it, yeah. One of my friends owned it back in the day, and it's fine. It's a pretty mediocre game, and it has Family Guy jokes, so it's like your enjoyment pretty much it hinges on how much you enjoy the jokes, honestly, because the game itself is underwhelming.
I bet.
So it's like a Gex game.
Yeah, kinda.
God. That is already unremarkable to begin with.
Good old Gex.
Good old Gex. Get out of here, Gex. You ain't licensed material.
No, he's not.
Nobody references licensed material all the time.
Yeah,
He does.
or at least people.
I was gonna say I remember when I was played Gex 3 Deep Pocket Gecko on the Game Boy Color. Like even that one, despite the technical hardware, was still trying very hard to reference licensed material where it could. It you go into like different like TV channels.
Is Sonic Adventure 2 licensed material, or Sonic
Because it
Adventure
has
1?
soap shoes.
Yeah, soap shoes.
No,
Is that a licensed video game?
that's just a merch tie-in.
Well, then is Mario Kart 8 a licensed
No.
video game?
God, we're going down this rabbit hole.
God.
The only like big series I can think of left that I wanted to touch on before we wrap this up. And don't worry, there's a little something else I will talk about that ties directly into this.
You decided you're
here
just
in a
going to save it
second.
for. I thought you were just going to talk about during the podcast proper.
Well, we have to let them listen to the whole thing. We got to make them want to listen to the whole thing. We'll be talking about that in a little bit.
Okay.
Is the last series that I wanted to touch on was Star Wars, because there's a lot of Star Wars games.
There are a shitload of Star Wars games.
There's a lot of Star Wars games, and your mileage on that is really varied because there's a lot of different Star Wars.
There's a lot of good ones and a lot of bad ones.
Yeah.
I haven't played any Star Wars games, to be honest with you.
Battlefront 2, classic.
Well, the 2005 version.
Yeah.
Pandemic Studios, 2005 Star Wars Battlefront 2.
The original 2005 Battlefront 2, classic. Knights of the Old Republic,
classic.
The original one, classic. Lego Star Wars, classic.
I like Rogue Squadron, and
Rogue Squadron is good. Yeah,
that one's a good one. Bounty Hunter, Star Wars Bounty Hunter.
I have not played that one.
Oh, that one's fun. Yeah.
Those are pod racing.
Pod racing was pretty good.
Pod racing.
There was I forget if there was the Super Nintendo one. I think it was just Super Star Wars.
Yeah, that game is hard.
I remember being pretty good for being like stupid hard. But yeah, Star Wars, especially Battlefront 2. Oh my goodness. Oh
yeah.
Why do they fuck up the fucking like?
How did they fuck up
the
port for that so badly? It's insane how much they fumbled the bag on that one.
I'll just wait. I'll just wait until they make it good.
I mean, you can still buy the original Battlefront 2 on Steam.
I own the original Battlefront 2 on Steam.
I do too. We've played it together.
We have played it together. We need to play it on stream together.
True. And then we can just say, watch out for those wrist rockets.
Watch out for those wrist rockets.
Over and over again.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much the extent of my Star Wars exposure.
That's fair.
All right.
I mean, as far as the Lego ones go, the one that I played the most easily was the first one, which was based on the prequel trilogy. But like, probably okay, no, Battlefront 2 is also based on the prequel trilogy. But like, it's crazy just how good like the side content was to the prequel trilogy, because like the movies themselves, questionable. The games, really fucking good.
There's a lot of really solid ones. There's a really not solid ones too, but there's a lot of solid ones.
Yeah,
they're still looked upon fondly to this day.
Okay.
What were you gonna say, Claude?
I was gonna ask if Landon had anything else to add about like Star Wars games. Or
no, that was it. We pretty much touched on everything.
So Landon is apparently saving this for like our after like wrap up section. So before we get to that, there's one last question I want to ask, and that would be, if you had to like pick just a couple, like a small handful, like count on one hand, like licensed games that really define your gaming experience out of all of the ones that you played, like do you have like any specific ones you could like just kind of say like these ones definitely?
Definitely Sandland for the PS5.
There's a couple of big ones that we didn't talk about, like the PS2 Spider-Man games.
We didn't talk about GoldenEye 007, but I mean, we talked about that during our we talked about like what podcast was it? I remember talking about GoldenEye 007 for it.
I do not remember. Honestly,
much which one it was, but I didn't bring it up because I remember talking about it in a previous podcast, so like that's why. But I mean, GoldenEye 007, that's like a big one. Like that was not only was it a good license game, it was one of the best games on the system that it came out on. So like insane.
Yeah, I think I
didn't talk about Kingdom Hearts because you weren't here, but there's licensed games and then there's games that heavily rely on licensed content. And while we talked about both, I tried to steer away from like talking about just games that have licensed content, because for me that's just like a rabbit hole that you just keep falling deeper and deeper into, and I was like, I'm gonna keep away from that.
We also didn't talk about Marvel versus Capcom.
That's true too. Because that's literally half Marvel, so half licensed shit.
Yeah,
I've never really been a big into like Marvel versus Capcom. Like I liked Ultimate versus Marvel vs. Capcom 3, but that's about all I've played.
I was really into Marvel versus Capcom 3 for a while.
Yeah.
That's a fucking great game.
Yeah, I really love Tatsunoko versus Capcom. Probably the best versus Capcom. Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
Another really like one more quick, really good one. And there's a few of these now, I think, but I've only played the first one. South Park: The Stick of Truth. There are other South Park games that came out like back in the 90s. Like there's the South Park on the 64, which is fucking terrible. But like Stick of Truth, really fucking, like in terms of presentation, it feels like you're just playing an episode of the show, and it's great, honestly.
Okay. Other ones that you can think of?
I already said GoldenEye. DuckTales.
Woohoo.
We played The Walking Dead.
That
and The Wolf
true.
Among Us.
And The Wolf Among Us. Both of those are licensed video games.
R.I.P. Telltales.
Yep.
Telltale Games. That's
I'm gonna skim through our LPs and streams to see if there's anything I missed. I mean, obviously there's like Garfield Caught in the Act from way back when.
Another classic.
Another Gaming Stooges hood classic. I think that's about it, though.
And there was that one time we played Dragon Ball Z Kakarot for the channel.
True.
I would say but to like go back to the question about like
top 5
for like formative licensed games.
I'm gonna try and exclude Guitar Hero and Rock Band because those aren't technically. I mean, like we talked about them because they contain licensed.
If you want, like pick like the one definitive one out of like all of those.
Well, the one I'd say I had the most experience with is definitely Rock Band 2.
Rock Band 2.
So I'll say that.
Okay.
Tony Hawk's Underground, if that counts. It kind of does, kind of doesn't. I mean, it has original characters, but it also has a lot of real life people in it as well. Let's see. Probably. This is tough.
Do you want me to come back to you? Because I've got
Goof Troop.
Goof Troop is good.
Probably Spider-Man 2 for the PS2. And fuck it, I'll say GoldenEye.
All right, I definitely can basically just whittle mine down to, I would definitely say, even though I would say that the best one that I played is World Championship 2008, I still think Yu-Gi-Oh! Forbidden Memories is like quintessential game for me. Like I still play that game. So like Yu-Gi-Oh! Forbidden Memories for sure. The Lion King, just because like that was like the first major one that I played that was a licensed thing, and like it opened me up to the possibility that like, you know, video games can be based on stuff that already exists and still be fun. So I mean that has to be worth something. I would say WWE SmackDown versus Raw 2006. That was like my favorite WWE game, and I played so much of that game. Like I remember I took a custom character through both the Raw and SmackDown sides of the campaign multiple times. Like I played a lot of that game. Um I don't want to say anything Dragon Ball related. We've already talked about Dragon Ball in a separate podcast. There's like 10 Dragon Ball games that I think are excellent, and like even if you're not totally into Dragon Ball, you could still pick them up and play them. So like just go watch the Dragon Ball podcast before I say anything on that part at all.
Just pick one of them. Just say
Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2. There it goes again.
That's the most formative one, folks.
I mean, it really is. Like, no, if I was like saying formative, probably Budokai 2. Like
there you go.
That was a very big deal for me. Like that was the Dragon Ball game that was like, wow, Dragon Ball games are fun. So like that'd be one. And then it's definitely, I would definitely say GoldenEye 007. Like these are not my favorite licensed games. These are just like ones that like just really stuck with me over time. So like even 007 like not being like the best to control, like I've still wanted to like pick it up and play it at times. And like I know some people, like a lot of people, like they say they don't care for it, but like I had no real complaints about the 2010 game on the Wii. I had a lot of fun with that version as well. So like yeah. Like GoldenEye 007 is probably a big one as well. So yeah, probably The Lion King, Yu-Gi-Oh! Forbidden Memories, GoldenEye 007, probably Dragon Ball Z Budokai 2, and WWE SmackDown vs. Raw 2006. Those are like the major ones for me.
Most formative licensed games, you ask me?
Yes.
Lego Racers, Star Wars Battlefront 2, Lego Chess, Lego Creator, Lego Island, Lego Island 2, Lego Star Wars.
Lego.
A lot of Lego. I liked Lego as a child.
I did too. I didn't even bring it up, but I also played a shit ton of Lego Indiana Jones as well.
That's a good one.
That's a good one.
And then that TMNT game 2003, classic. And Shrek 2 for the GameCube.
Okay.
Oh, and SpongeBob Bikini, like
this dude's out here just listing stuff beyond being able to count on two hands, let alone one.
How did we go this entire podcast and forget to mention SpongeBob? There are so many fucking SpongeBob games.
I've never played any of the SpongeBob video games, to be honest with you.
Really?
We ran out of time, folks.
Oh, well.
So, Jack, what have you been up to recently?
Landon's trying to rush this podcast to the end so he doesn't have another 3-hour podcast to edit.
We got to start getting down to like hour podcasts. I'm sorry.
Hour and a half.
Hour and 10-minute podcasts.
All right. Well,
hour and a half.
Was our last podcast on the 24th?
Yes.
Is that correct? Because I think it was like right before my birthday.
It was right before
our birthdays.
Landon's birthday eve.
Landon's birth eve, correct.
Yeah, Landon's birth eve.
It's been a pretty busy 2 weeks for me, actually.
It was the 23rd because I remember the Landon wanted to do it a day early.
That's right. We did podcasts on Tuesday, and then we did Apollo on Wednesday, and then Friday that week.
Yep.
Yeah, it's been fun. I went to a lot of shows in the last few weeks. On my birthday, Cloud's leaving. My birthday was fun. I had to work for part of it, which sucked ass. But me and some friends Drove up to South Bend for a small death metal show. Shout out Gates to Hell, Vomit Forth, I Forget the Third Band, and my buddies in Feticide.
That would be a great like opener band name. I forget
the third band.
Yeah.
I can probably pull it up right now and see. Hold on.
What else did you do?
It was pretty much that. Or on my birthday anyway, because it was like we went there. A lot of friends, a lot of people I knew, a lot of people from Fort Wayne were there. We slammed beers and enjoyed a good death metal show, and it was fun.
Hell yeah!
Nice. In a sweaty ass basement. Let's see. I few days after that went to go see Knocked Loose in Detroit. And that was great. Let's see.
You guys saw Jefferson recently, right?
What's that?
You saw
Jefferson Rosenstock?
Yeah.
I saw him a couple weeks ago.
Okay.
That was before the last podcast.
Yeah. Okay.
Actually, it was close to a month ago, but yeah, I saw him in Detroit on the 13th last month.
Or you're going again.
I am going again because he's playing in Indy.
Yeah.
With Chris Farron, and I am absolutely going to that.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah. I'm looking here at the notes file of the shows that I've been to this year, which is already this long.
Keeping a big old notes file.
Yep. Let's see. Just this past Sunday, me and Bethany went to go see Cheek Face in Detroit, and then just yesterday, me and some friends drove up to fucking Pontiac, Michigan, which is a 3-hour drive. It's technically a Detroit suburb, but it's like 3-hour drive away on a goddamn Tuesday for an 8-band bill.
Ooh.
That was every band on that bill was great, but like Jesus, it's so many bands, cuz like it was literally like 2 different tours. Like 2 completely separate tours that for one show in Michigan, like combined for one 8-band bill.
Oh, wow.
And it was ridiculous.
It was a super event, super venue.
It really was. It was Gag, Peeling Flesh, Cruelty, 200 Stab Wounds, Jesus Piece, Sanguisugabog, blanking on Full of Hell, and Dying Fetus.
Those sound like band names.
They are, I assure you, they are real bands.
I know, in fact, he's not making those up.
I was going to say,
said those names before.
I was going to say, Dying Fetus sound familiar.
I've actually never seen Dying Fetus before, and they were great.
Oh.
But I'll post one picture I took in the spoilers. But that's what I've been up to the last few weeks. Mosh pit, absolutely. Okay. It was ridiculous.
I've been, not up to a whole lot. I've been slowly starting to collect more physical video games. I had alluded to it earlier in the podcast, but I have the Project Diva PSP games. Got Project Diva 2nd, Project Diva Extend. I think I did that in the right order. Yes, I did. Okay, making sure. I also just got in, I think yesterday, a copy of Yu-Gi-Oh! The Sacred Cards for the Game Boy Advance. This is actually kind of neat because it's like an RPG that uses the card game as like a vehicle for like a story, where like you self-insert into like the Battle City tournament arc. It's kind of fun. I've been playing Magic the Gathering with my friends recently every Thursday, and today my LGS specially ordered me this big old deck box. I got this fancy deck box from a brand called GamingStooges. The company,
looks really nice.
The company GamingStooges makes excellent deck boxes. This is specifically what they call the Academic, which I got because that is specifically a collaboration that the company originally did with content creator Talarian Community College. He reviews like trading card game accessories and stuff like that. So he like reviews like deck boxes and card sleeves. And he used to do that a lot, but he hasn't really done a whole lot lately, but he mostly does like Magic the Gathering based content. And they did a deck box with him. And I'd already bought a GameGenic deck box in the past. And I was like, well, I love GameGenic. Their deck boxes are great. So I got this deck box to like support both, you know, the content creator that I like as well as the company. And it's great. Like it houses everything. It has all my dice in it. It's got my little spin down that I use to keep track of my life counter. There's like these like special like cards that are like dry erase materials. So like you can write on them for like tokens and then like erase them with a little eraser. That's been super convenient for keeping track of stuff. So it's like, oh, I need to make this little like token thing that happens because of this card. So like I just write it on dry erase. And I used to have to like just kind of lug that separate, but I just have room for it in the compartment with that deck box. So that's pretty cool. And other than that, I played a little bit of Kingdom Hearts 2, so we might get back to it in the near future. I was grinding a bit, so
No.
Can I show off one quick thing that I forgot to mention before that happened? So for my birthday, Bethany got me this Absol.
Oh, that's sick.
Fucking card box. She found it on eBay and it was sealed. The box got a little beat up when it.
Oh, that's cool.
Shipped.
They have like older style cards too, like the Charmander.
Oh yeah, it was like there was like I already opened all the packs in here, but like yeah, there was like a few like I think 4 or 6 different packs that were like all from like kind of different eras of the card game.
That's sick.
Oops, I bumped my mic. I apologize, Landon.
How dare you do this to me?
I'm sorry. But yeah, this was super nice of her because she knows Absol is my favorite Pokemon.
That's cool. But yeah, aside from that, I've been just kind of up to the same old stuff, just working on a video for a solo channel, trying to slowly play more PS5 stuff so that I can play Kingdom Hearts, get myself motivated to get back to that in the near future. Been playing a lot of Project Diva, so a lot of rhythm game stuff. Eventually I will play more kart racers, Katie, but right now I'm on a Project Diva kick and I could make a video about that, and that doesn't require me to play 55 plus 90 plus 120 plus whatever, however many kart racers I would have to play for one video. That's a lot. Like earlier today, the newest game that had come out, Project Diva Megamix, my girlfriend and I were actually like playing, like we both have it, so we'd both pick the song and then we'd both play through the song at like the same time and like compare scores at the end of the song. Cause she's finally like caught up to a point where like she's basically like just about almost to my level. Cause I can play like the songs on like hard, and she's like able to start doing that on like the lower, like the less difficult songs. So we like can like play together now and just kind of like do like a little rivalry of sorts in a rhythm game series. It's pretty cool. And that's it. Yeah. I got back to Dark Cloud 2. Been trying to work towards the platinum trophy on that. It's going to be a while though. And yeah, basically the same old. Just wanted to show off a couple cool things I got. Oh, I didn't get to show it off actually. This might be difficult, and this is only for the viewers, but I got a free table that is literally just, it's like,
You got, or did you steal?
It was out on a curb, and so it was going out to the trash. Like they put it up against the telephone pole and had it rested, as in it was getting tossed out. So yeah.
So yeah, you stole a table.
It's not stealing if they literally left it out for the trash to get picked
from
up.
A poor homeless child. You just stole it.
No, to be fair, the next day they had a bunch more shit out, and like I wasn't gonna take any of it anyway. Like I only Like I could not take any of that extra stuff. Like I just saw the table and like I need some extra like space elevated above the floor. So I was like, oh, table.
There you go. Okay, I'll make it real quick so I can get to the meat.
He's gonna talk. He's got a review
after hours. Well, it's not a full review, but it ties into the discussion, and I feel like it'll be fun. I've been reading Witch Watch. Is very fun. There was a whole chapter where all the characters become Minecraft characters.
Interesting.
It's the premise is an apprentice witch is being hunted by warlocks, and so her best friend from childhood, who is an ogre, is like protecting her now as they attend high school, and they get up to shenanigans.
I forgot to mention. Oh, actually, now that since I have a second, I forgot to mention I have been rewatching the Yu-Gi-Oh anime subbed, and like I'm all the way at the virtual world arc now, so that's been pretty fun to rewatch.
Okay, so there's that. I played a little bit of Princess Peach Showtime. I got to the 3rd floor. I've been working a little bit on Runner 2. But the main thing... Oh, and this ties into the other thing I did. I finished the anime for Sandland.
I still have to finish it. I have like 2 episodes left or something.
I've been playing the video game for Sandland. Once you finish it, we can have a
discussion.
A discussion,
a mini anime review
in the middle of whatever fucking thing we're doing.
Just do it in the middle, like the dead middle of like the next episode, completely unrelated. We're just gonna be like, all right, let's talk about Sandland.
That's what I'm here for, baby. So Sandland, the video game. I think, especially because we were talking about licensed video games, it made me think about the gamification of like a product, and like especially because the anime released like alongside, like it was like airing as this came out, but for like a manga that's like over 20 years ago, it's interesting to see like all of this media come out, and
all of a sudden
to see how like there was 2 interpretations of an adaptation for this, and how they handle it in their perspective medias. I mentioned a little bit on our Discord, but like they introduce a character that was not in the original manga, introduced in the second half of the anime during the original stuff. She gets introduced very early in this game, and at first I was a little like, okay, that's a little weird, but that's cool. I love her as a character. And then it makes sense because of how they just gamify the game, or the series. She becomes like your like mechanic, and so you can build other vehicles through her. You can upgrade your vehicle through her. In this like town hub that you like build as you complete side quests. I think it's very interesting. I've been having a lot of fun with it, especially once you get the tank. Once you get the tank, this game like really becomes what it's supposed to be, which is a vehicle-based like combat RPG.
Interesting.
Before that, it's fine. You're just kind of going through it. There's like 2 stealth missions that are like back to back, and they're like okay. They're not hard, but they're just like stealth missions that are there. But so far, I would say I found the legendary spring like right before we started the podcast. I was playing. I found the legendary spring, and I'm about to go find like the main water source. So I'm like almost to the conclusion of the original story.
Interesting.
But they've added they've added some cool content in the meantime, especially like I said to gamify it, to like give you a reason to like build these other vehicles and stuff. They've like changed some stuff around.
Now, is the game based on purely just
it's both halves.
It is both halves of the anime, so it does include the new exclusive arc that got added.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is something that they were like working on in tandem this whole time. Like this has already been like planned out from the jump. That's really cool.
Yeah. Which makes sense because they were like, it's Project Sandland. Like they were like, we want to just like do it. Like we want to add this content. Especially since, Akira Toriyama was like penning, like he like drew the characters and I'm sure had some level of concept on all of the second half of the story.
It was like a Dragon Ball Super situation where he was like, I have a rudimentary idea of what I want to happen next, and then just kind of gave it to them, and he was like, okay, you guys fill in the blanks.
Yeah. And I'll say the anime, I loved the anime. I loved like reading the original manga because I really enjoy the world like that was built for this.
Oh yeah.
And like having like all of this kind of dumped on me at once is like fun because I get to continue to explore the world, and especially because of like the whole hub town that as you like complete side quests you bring in new people, so it'll open up shops.
Oh.
And you can like upgrade those shops by doing these side quests too, and like unlocking new stuff to like do stuff. And then you also see like the physical town. It starts off as like a like almost deserted wasteland town, and then as you bring in these people, like they really build it up, and you can see the progress over time. It's really cool. Yeah. My biggest negatives for the game, because even in a game I enjoy, I gotta nitpick somewhere. Sometimes the quest marker is just, it really likes to hold your hand, and it'll go like, especially during that stealth, one of those stealth missions I was mentioning, when you're going to get the tank, like it like every like it felt like 10 feet, like there was like, all right, now go here, all right, now go here, all right, now go here.
Oh god, it's one of those things where it's like it's not even like a waypoint. It's like you go to this specific spot, and then
it'll clear, and then another one will pop up.
I hate
those. I hate that shit.
And this is on top of like, I know people like have their whole deal on like yellow paint. Like there was like in that section, some of the roofs of buildings had like yellow paint splotches on them to like note you can jump over here. And I'm like, yeah, I knew that because the fucking quest marker was like telling me to go onto top of that fucking building. Thanks, game. So like
that's overkill.
That it was like, it's very, very overkill.
Like I can understand like kind of trying to point out to a player like this is interactable, but not only like showing that something's interactable, but then having the game just tell you go to this interactable thing. It's like just that's
go to it.
That's
jump on top of it.
It's so annoying.
Yeah. So like that I don't care for. Now it has like slimmed down a lot on how much that is, especially because the game really opens up once you get the tank, and I think that's why I like it a lot, is because you're not like railroaded through the story to get to the part where the game like opens up. The other thing is all of the enemies level up as you level up, except for
it's one of those.
Except for there's like wanted missions that you can do where those are at a set level, so you can clear those, and then you can come back and you can fight stronger versions of them, but they're at set levels. But everything else, all of the overworld enemies level up as you do. What is the point?
Yeah, that's like that's a Final Fantasy VIII situation. It's like there's too much stuff that's just scaling to you, so like you can't feel like you're progressing because it just scales.
And I mean, if it's just hey, we want to give you the ability to have skill points. Well, you can just give me skill points as I complete the story mode. Like, if that's all you want to do, is like, because there's a skill tree for Beelzebub and then Rao and Thief. They have skills. And also, Cloud, because I assume you might play this game. If you do, dump as many of the skill points as you can into Thief at first, because he gives you like all the passives for getting extra collectible materials for when you're like upgrading stuff.
Oh,
yeah, I've been doing that.
That'd be helpful.
Yeah, it's very helpful because you like get in the tank like beefed up, and then like all the other stuff beefed up as you go. There's a jump bot where he literally just jumps, and you can shoot a machine gun and incendiary grenades. It's fun.
Oh,
yeah. The vehicles, I have 4 of them so far. 3 of them are fun, and then the other one's a car that has like a lock-on missile launcher that is kind of poopy because it has no defense whatsoever and no HP. So it kind of just dies if I run into something.
Okay.
But you can switch basically instantly between a vehicle if you're inside a vehicle, because he uses like the capsule, like it does like capsule corp like capsules. And so you can just like switch between them. So if you like get into a fight, you can like switch to your tank and just like start beating stuff up.
Oh, okay.
It's fine.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Overall, I've been enjoying it. I'm about 11 and a half hours into Sandland. You'll definitely be hearing me talk about it more in the future, but I wanted to give it a decent overview, especially because it is a licensed game.
It is a licensed game.
Yeah. And I thought it does some neat stuff for the gamification of it, and it's a pretty interesting case study for a licensed game and how to change it from one media to another and like be good, be a little different, but still adapt it. Like I feel for the most part pretty well.
Okay,
yeah.
Well, that's good to hear. This has been our episode on licensed games, but we are going to head off, and maybe one day there'll be a Gaming Stooges podcast video game. No, there won't be, but that'd be interesting to think about now, wouldn't it? We're just going to leave you with that. Roll the outro. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.